So you'd have to go back to the start of the game until I released the Meta 4231. Now today, I have improved and upgraded the broken Meta 4231 to a tactic that went 65 games without losing a game. Yes, that does include some 0-0 draws and 1-1 draws, but we went unbeaten for 65 games. It absolutely cooks. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and if you enjoy the tactics that much, be sure to turn on the notification bell because you'll never miss another upload again. Let's get into it. So first up is going to be a team predicted 19th place in the Sky Bet Championship. That is going to be Preston, a very weak team where we come out and put on a masterclass of a display with a player scoring 50 goals followed up by 30. I will say you understand why the 4 players get so many goals in this tactic when you see the breakdown, because it's very catered towards feeding the big man or the small man up front. With 39 wins, 5 draws and only the 2 losses. Those 2 losses coming in against Plymouth and Stoke. A little bit disappointing we couldn't complete the Invincible run, but still a very, very strong season. Now going over to the team stats, we are going to be looking at 2.65 points per game, most goals at 153, most shots at 913, the fewest shots at 358, the fewest conceded, and the clean sheets are going to be down in 5th place, so not completely perfect, but for a team predicted 19th, I'm going to take that and run all the way to the bank because that is absolutely incredible. Now the Data Hub is going to back up that story. 3.33 goals per game, 1.07 goals conceded, over 19.85 shots per game, an 89% pass completion, and a very tidy tackle win ratio, completing what is to be looking like a very dominant Sky Bet Championship season. Now if that doesn't get the juices flowing enough, this might. A Carabao Cup final appearance, we get all the way to the final. Yes, it's a little bit ugly in the sense we do lose in the end, but to get to the final with this team is nothing short of a miracle. This is how good the tactic is. Then over to the blue side of Manchester, and we go over with Manchester City, and we nearly enjoy a perfect 38 out of 38 win ratio. We draw 1 game here against Villa, and we lose 1 game there against Nottingham Forest of all teams. Erling Haaland, 66 goals. Bernardo Silva, 31. Erling Haaland, 8.3. Silva, 8.17. John Stone, 7.62. Bernardo Silva, 29 assists. Kyle Walker, 17 assists. Ederson, the most clean sheets. It is utter English dominance, as to be expected, but still, to get it done this consistently, I will take. The team stats, the most clean sheets to the fewest conceded, the fewest shots against, the most shots for, the most goals, and the most points per game. And I'm saying most goals, we absolutely ran away with that award. Now, possession-wise, we're going to be semi-consistent in 2nd place. Not the best of the best, but still enough to get the job done. And I will say this tactic is designed for sensible pass and play, but it is not a tiki-taka short pass and control and style. We sacrifice maybe a % or 2 to go and get the goals, go and get the job done, which obviously we done to, well, the best level ever. Now, going over to the Data Hub, we are going to be looking at a very tasty 4.21 per goals per game, conceded at 0.42, over 24 shots every single match, an 89% pass completion, and a very tidy 79% tackle win ratio. So we are doing everything so well, conceding few goals, having a lot of shots per game, converting those in to quite a few goals. You can see here, scores a high number of goals for 13 minutes compared to the average. We are doing a very, very all-round, well, very good job. Now, to back that up even more and even more, we can go to the competitions and, yeah, let's treat ourselves. So, as you can see right now, Premier Division champions, we are also going to win the Champions League against PSG in 2-0 fashion. The Super Cup, we beat Sevilla 8-0. The FA Cup, we are going to win against Liverpool in 4-1 fashion. And it doesn't stop there. We go to the Carabao Cup, we win that in 5-1 fashion over Preston, which obviously was ourselves, and also the Community Shield, we come runners-up. A little bit disappointing, but it is still going to be a very, very strong season, completing almost everything we potentially could. I think we go and watch some highlights. So that FA Cup final had a lot to sort of offer to us, didn't it, as a game to watch as such. So we start things off there inside of 8 minutes with a 1-0 lead against Liverpool. They do bounce back there with a penalty, of course, a great penalty from Mo Salah. Bernardo Silva ball into the box, into Erling Haaland to make it 2-1. And now we go and make it 3 in the 63rd minute. We're not messing about now. We've turned up and we've got time for 1 more goal before we run away with this trophy into Erling Haaland. He ain't gonna miss. For the first time in a long time, we go over to the Belgian league where we actually go invincible, picking up 28 wins and 2 draws with Standard Liège. Not one of the best teams in the league. They're a decent team, but not up there with the best of the best. Still a very decent team, and we really extracted the most out of these players. We've got 3 players there in terms of the top goal scorers, 3 players in the average rating, the most clean sheets, and 2 players with the most assists. So it really did thrive over in Belgium. And as you can see, stat-wise, we're going to be laughing. Most possession, fewest conceded, most clean sheets, most shots, fewest shots against, 106 goals scored, which is phenomenal, and the most points per game. Now, what I will say is, you can take this tactic into some leagues and you will dominate possession, because maybe a lot of teams aren't playing that style. But I will say again, this is not a all and out, flat out possession tactic. But I will say, this video does get up to 80 likes, I will make a dedicated possession tactic where we'll purely try and get into the 70% mark, if it's possible. We'll give it a whirl, but a very, very strong season. And going over to the data hub, we are going to be scoring 2.65 goals a game, 0.35 conceded, over 20 shots a match. Not too shabby, an 89% pass completion and an 83% tackle win ratio. So again, scoring a high number of goals per minute compared to the average. Now, last time I checked, goals mean win, so we'll take it and move on. Now, competitions, we also go over and win the Crocky or the Croaky Cup against Circle Bruges, a 2-0 win, so not the toughest final, but that's another one ticked off. Lastly, over to Turkey. What a game they had. What a game they had. Got the job done against Austria, and you know what? We got the job done here as well. 35 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. The only loss coming against rivals Besiktas, and the 2 draws coming against the teams you'd expect, to be fair, but Edin Dzeko breaks 40 goals. Dusan Tadic, incredible in this year's game with 32 goals. We've got 3 players in the most average rating and 3 players in the assist category as well. And on this occasion, we pick up the most clean sheets. It genuinely was a bit of Turkish dominance, which we love to see. Fewest conceded at 21, the most clean sheets at 21, most possession at 65%, which goes to show, as I said, you can take this tactic into certain leagues and you will dominate possession. Turkey would be a great example of that. The best pass completion at 90%, the most shots at over 900, the fewest shots against at only 170, the most goals shy of 160 by 1, and the most points per game at 2.82. That is absolutely beautiful. Now, the data hub is also going to paint the story of over 4 goals a game at 4.18, 0.55 conceded, over 23.74 shots per game, a fantastic pass completion, and a really good tackle win ratio. But what was even more beautiful was what we done alongside of it. So we'll go and have a little look. So we were able to win the Conference League. We are going to go and beat Fiorentina. We beat them recently in another tactic video. Unlucky for them. We are going to beat them 1-0. Again, a close game, but we get the job done, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. The Turkish Cup, we go and beat Gospi, I believe is how you say that, in a 6-0 win, a very comfortable Turkish Cup final. And the Super Cup, we smash Galatasaray 4-0. So that is literally, and I mean literally, the perfect Turkish season. Sorry to the Galatasaray fans, but they simply couldn't hack us this season. I mean, we absolutely battered them in this game. 6 minutes in with 1-0 already, and from this point on, our confidence was through the roof. Dusan Tadic taking on the whole world and threading it into the bottom right-hand corner against a very good-looking Galatasaray team as well. Fred over the top, into Tadic, into Edin Dzeko, into the bottom left-hand corner to make it 3. Credit where it is due to Galatasaray. Zaha plays it back, and that is a beautiful finish first time. We've got to give them their pros, and, they've definitely got a lot of cons, so we've got to give them a little bit of positivity when it is due. But apart from that, Under goes through, slots another home, and to finish off the game in 5-1 fashion, Josh King. Have some of that. I do want to say now is the perfect time to leave a like on the video and subscribe. But if you wonder where the rebuilds have gone, they are now on my second channel, which can be found above here, if I remember, and in the description below, where we post rebuilds between once every 2 to 3 days. So come over, get involved, because you can also see these tactics perform in the rebuilds as well. So you can get an understanding of what I change over sort of a 3 to 5 year example. But let's go through and talk about the meta 4231 V2. So I've gone in and loaded a GegenPress 4231 positive, because that is the meta, and we're going to sort of build the tactic together, and I can understand exactly why this is the new best tactic for you to be using if you want to play a 4-2-3-1. Now, of course, if you want to get all 3 of these tactics today, you can do so in one simple download over on the Patreon. Over on the Patreon, not only do you get these 3 tactics, you get the console, you get the mobile, you get them early, you also get my rebuild files, you also get priority in the tactic and the rebuild requests, you get one-on-one tactical help, access to a community of over 4,550 people, and this month we are giving away £375 split between 5 winners. So come over and get involved, because you can get your hands on that. It's an absolute madness. Come over and get involved. Link is going to be in the description and on the screen. But let's go through and build this 4-2-3-1 positive. So let's go through and talk about the goalkeeper. A lot to talk about today. The goalkeeper, I never usually like to go too out there, too risky with the goalkeeper. So we are going to go with a sweeper keeper who is simply going to be set to support. I rarely use an attacking goalkeeper unless it's to replicate a manager system or something like that. So we are going to keep him nice and supportive. Now, this is where things get a little bit tasty. So we are going to go with a wing back, and he is going to be set to automatic, and I am going to load in this lovely screen here where we are going to add instructions like this, because the wing back on the right is actually going to be marking. If we go down here, let me move this out the way, I've got something blocking my screen. When I go down here, he is going to be marking the AM left. Of course, playing on the opposite side, I want him to be marking that position right there. Now, alongside of this, we are going to have him on to run wide. We are also going to have him to get further forwards, and that is going to complete this wing back for the right-hand side. Now, I thought I'd show you in that screen, because obviously, if I just show you this, you've got no idea what position I'm marking. So that is why I'm going to do it in a lot of detail today. The wing back is also going to be exactly the same on the left in terms of, you know, getting forwards and running wide. But of course, if he's on the left-hand side, we are going to want him to be marking the AM in brackets R, because again, opposites, that's what you've got to be doing. So right on the left, left on the right. A lot of confusion there, but hopefully that does make sense, and obviously it comes across quite easy to copy. Now, in terms of the ball playing defenders, I want 2 of them, and again, because we have got quite an attack and front line, I'm not going to be too sort of I'm not going to allow them to go too forwards, dribble more, none of this libero stuff. I want them to be quite basic, but I want them to be comfortable on the ball when they have got it. So I'm not going to use central defenders or no nonsense. I want them to be ball players, but they don't need to be too attacking, in my humble opinion. When it comes to the midfield, we are going to go with a bit of a deeper midfield, and we are going to go with a DLP on the right, who is simply going to be on support, and we are going to have one instruction, which always works well. That is going to be simply tackle harder. Now, next to him, just to protect the back line a little bit, and because, again, the front four is very attacking, we are going to go with a DM who is going to be set to support, and again, we are going to have some instructions, and that is going to be to tell him to pass it short. We're going to have him on take fewer risks, we're going to have him holding his position, and also tackling harder. So what this player is going to do is, he's going to work very hard to win the ball back. When he's got the ball, he's going to be a very risk-free option that will pass it to potentially one of the players up the front, or play it around the back very sensibly, and not take too many risks. Now, there's a lot to talk about on the wing, so we're going to do the sort of attacking player first, attacking midfield player, and the striker. The striker, by the way, is going to be a simple, nice and easy poacher, because this tactic is to be literally designed to spoon feed your goal scorer. So make sure you have got a bagsman up front, because this is heavily reliant on feeding him and him really turning up into the team. Going up the pitch a little bit, we are going to go to the attacker midfield player, and he is going to be set to support, and we have got some instructions. The first one is going to be hold up the ball, shorter passing directness, and roam from position, with also shoot less often on. So basically, these instructions, I want him to sit a little bit deeper. When he gets the ball, hold up the ball for the wide players. I don't really want him shooting necessarily. Now, don't get me wrong. If you've got like a Bruno Fernandes or something who has got an absolute strike on him, a Kevin De Bruyne, for example, and you're playing him in this position, do take shoot less often on, because if they have a crack at goal, chances are it is going to be quite a good strike. But if you haven't, just stick to this, because it works very, very well. And again, it all comes back to the same old tale of feeding the poacher. Feed the poacher, he will score. Now, what I will say is, in terms of the marking, the inside forward, which you're going to have on the left, is going to be simply set to attack, and on the right is going to be exactly the same. And the reason for this, the reason why they're inside forwards, is because our wing-backs, obviously, are going to get forwards. They are going to run wide, so the inside forwards need to come inside, so the wing-backs can overlap nice and easy. And what I've done is, I have gone with shoot more often on both sides, which is why you would have seen so many shots being deployed at goal, because usually I like doing this to my finishers, or my wingers have got good finishing. But again, if your wingers have not got good finishing, don't just have it on for the sake of it, because it will come back to bite you. So make sure you've got good finishing on your wingers. If you haven't, simply remove it, and it will still perform very, very well. Now let's go to the team instructions. So again, all based off a custom GegenPress on the positive mentality. We are going to leave this in the middle while overlapping left and overlapping right, while playing out from the back. We are also going to deploy a higher tempo match with a wonderful shorter passing directness, and of course, we are going to leave mixed crosses on and be more expressive. I've got no shame in saying this is a very attacking 4-2-3-1, but it's not overkill. You're not going to, go and score 5 and concede 4. You don't concede too many goals, and you score more than you need. Transition, we are going to go with counter press. We are going to go with counter and play to anyone across that wonderful back line. Again, we want to eliminate as many risks as what we can at the back, so that is why I'm comfortable going to anyone, because although the wing backs are going to get forwards, they're not going to be permanently, pushed quite high up. So we are going to stick with that, and it should be completely fine. And to be fair, when I was watching the highlights, as I do throughout these tactic tests, we virtually made 0 mistakes in terms of playing it from the back. So like this is going to be the go-to option. Now lastly, out of possession, we are going to deploy the high defensive line, match with the high pressing line of engagement, and the trigger press is simply going to be set to more often. Everything else I left blank. Now to the attacking tactic. To the attacking tactic, things do change a little bit, because again, I'm really trying to get the most out of the team. The goalkeeper does remain the same. The wing back on the right and on the left also remain the same, as does both of the ball-playing defenders. So the same goalkeeper, the same back line, to be honest. A box-to-box on the left comes in now, of course, pushed up from DMs to more central options on get further forwards and move into the channels. A DLP comes in beside him on tackle harder. This lethal partnership strikes once again. The inside forward on the right and on the left naturally remain the same because they're doing their job anyway. We don't really need to make them any more attacking, and because it's an attacking tactic, we definitely don't want to make them any more defensive. Now the attacking midfield player does change, goes up to attacking, on pass at shorter, hold up the ball and roam. So again, similar vibe, but now he is going to be simply set to attack, and the poacher remains exactly the same with a mark in a certain position, which is going to be this right here, marking the central defender. Make sure you've got that on and apply that pressure. In instructions, again, the GegenPress, this time set to attacking. We are still going to play out from the back and overlap left and overlap right because that is how we play in our ball. We are going to go all the way up to a higher tempo with a shorter passing directness with mixed crosses and be more expressive. And you might be thinking, Josh, it's the same, man. It is the same, but I've included it because I've got one bit of advice for you. If you are desperate, and I mean desperate, do not be afraid ever to use shoot on sight. If we're into talking the last couple of minutes and you've still not got anything going, make sure you've got it selected. Trust me. In transition, it is literally going to be the same, so I'll not waste your time on that. It's literally going to be like this. For anyone that missed it, obviously in the previous one, that is what you're going to want to have, but the change comes in and out of possession where we are not going to go with a higher line, but a much higher defensive line, and we are still going to maintain them more often. Again, if you're desperate, and I'm talking desperate, you can max out the press, you can get stuck in and potentially even step up more, but just I'd apply this and switch to this tactic if you're sort of in need of a goal with 10-15 minutes left. Then if it gets desperation time, make the advised changes I just said, because sometimes you need to completely full send to get the goal you so want. I've also gone to the effort to make an underdog tactic / defensive tactic. The goalkeeper does remain the same. The wing back on the right and on the left are going to be marking the same areas, both on run wide but also now on defend. So again, not as attacking, they are marking the same areas for anyone wondering. That is shown in the default tactic breakdown. A DM on the left in midfield, but again dropping back to 2 DMs now, or 2 defensive midfield minded players on defend, on pass at shorter, take fewer risks and tackle harder. We then next to him have a ball in midfield player who is simply going to be on support, who naturally is going to be tackling harder. Now for the inside forwards on the right and on the left, they are not going to be shooting more often now because this is definitely a much more sort of time wasting, you know, keep the ball malarkey. I don't want them having pop shots, so simply both on support there. The attacking midfield player back on support, on pass at shorter, hold up, shoot less often and roam from position. And the poacher does remain the same because I still want that bagsman in the team. I want that man who can get the goal even when you're not expecting to score. So the GegenPress on the balance, to the balance mentality, and oh boy, does it change a little bit. So we are going to go for playing out from the back is still going to remain the same. Mixed crosses remains the same. Work ball into the box, obviously a new instruction for this tactic is going to be deployed. We are also going to be looking for playing for set pieces, a very crucial role in this. We're going to go all the way down to much shorter when it comes to the passing directness, and we are going to match that with a slightly lower tempo. And because we are trying to run down the clock, there is no harm in applying a little bit of time wasting. Now in transition, less talk. We are going to go with counter press. We're not going to directly counter, neither hold the shape. We're going to keep it very, very basic and leave it blank. Of course, we're trying to run the clock down. We're going to slow the pace down and play to anyone across the back line. Again, eliminating any form of possible sort of error. Playing to anyone, slowing it down, taking your time. That's what you want to be doing when you're trying to seal out a game, you know. And lastly, out of possession, we are going to go with the higher defensive line, match with the high press line of engagement, more often on the trigger press. And that is going to complete for you boys and girls back home 3 variants of what is one of the best tactics I've genuinely made. It's taken me a long time, around about 6 months, to improve from the Meta 4-2-3-1 to this one, playing the same sort of football I want to play. Now, I would recommend giving it a whirl. It works with anyone. And again, if you have enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. You want to get the tactics on mobile and console, it is on the Patreon, the link below. Hopefully, you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.